Here we see Steve getting ready to draft.
Steve is a Pro Tour champion. He won Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad with green-white tokens, which ended up being the best deck in the format for some time afterwards. And so essentially until it rotated.
All right, so if you're Steve, what are you hoping to open at this point? You are playing for the top 8 of Big Grand Prix.
Both Steve and I are hoping to open about the same thing. I see Manipulator, though I think the best pick one, pack one in the format for Dominaria is Moltani, Yavimai's avatar. And, ooh, we get to see him crack his pack right now.
This is always the most exciting part. So players do have to verify that the packs have enough cards, and then after that, we get to see pack one, pick one.
Next round pairings are being posted.
This is always a sweat, right? You have cards in hand. You want to know exactly what's in them. You can't quite pick them up yet because these are called drafts.
Yeah, it's the most exciting part by far. You just like, how is this top 8 going to go? Am I going to first pick an awesome, mythic or uncommon or rare? Or am I going to first pick something like a Sheevan Fire, feel okay about it and be ready to go? Or am I going to, drop even a level below that and first pick something like Yavimaya Sapherd, which can happen, and you're never too happy about that. Players eagerly anticipating when they're going to be told to fire away here. I guess we are also anticipating that.
We are excited too. So is there anything that you change approach-wise if you're trying to do a draft while you're doing it at home or at FNM versus when you're doing it here in the top 8 of the Grand Prix?
Well, when you're drafting at FNM and you open a, say, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria in pack 3 in your black-red, you're probably taking it.
Sure.
Here in the Grand Prix, you're going to take the best card for your deck every single pack, and that would be...
Currently, Blink of an Eye, Gilded Lotus, and Halar Firefletcher moving to the front.
Alongside a Sapling Migration as well. At the Pro Tour, I took Sapling Migration over Blink of an Eye. I think I would actually take Blink now, and maybe this is slightly results-oriented, but Steve just did, 3-0 or 2-0-1 with a deck that had, it looks like 2-0-1 with a deck that had 3 Blink of an Eye. Maybe he's got more for that card. No.
He is opting for that Sapling Migration. Pack 1, pick 1. Not the most exciting pack 1, pick 1.
No, that's more on the scale that I was just talking about near Yavimaya Sapherd. Sapling Migration is a fine card. It by some accounts, the best green common. That doesn't mean that's what you want to be your first pick of the draft.
How do you like that Gilded Lotus?
It is pretty good in some decks, but it's definitely not a card I want to take early.
All right, so still no second color for Steve, so World is his oyster. It looks like he's looking at the Howling Golem, even though that is colorless.
G2 Chronicler as well would go well with Sapling Migration, and there's also a Mammoth Spider, which... we're not sure exactly what Steve's thinking, but there we go. Once you move it to the front of the pack, it feels like you're a little bit more likely to take it. I would lean towards Mammoth Spider here because I think these cards are all fairly comparable. G2 Chronicler is probably the best one overall, but Mammoth Spider is in the color you already took and doesn't require a specific deck, whereas you can draft G2 Chronicler in a red deck and still have it not be great.
For sure, and he is opting for that Mammoth Spider. So, okay, green commons, they're pretty good, but this is not exactly the explosive start that Steve is looking for at the beginning of this draft.
No, not at all. And here he's facing the pick between Blink of an Eye, Whisper, Blood Liturgist, and Windgrace Acolyte with a Jousting Length and Deathbloom Thallid as well. So a lot of black cards. One of the things I would notice where I Steve in this pack is that there are 3 good black cards in the pack, and that's a good sign. Now we're getting to the point where the players next to me are passing me signals. Whisper also works quite nicely with Sapling Migration, so not a big surprise that Steve chose to go down that road. He's not firmly ensconced into black-green yet, but he has got inroads into that archetype.
Yeah, do you think Whisper is best in the Saprolings deck out of all of its options?
Yeah, I like Whisper about the best in a Saprolings deck, though there are some black-red decks that can make good use of Whisper as well. And black-white with Sergeant at Arms, that sort of thing. So now Steve is faced between a pick of the most powerful card, which is a Goblin Barrage here, versus a card that's a little more on color, like Fungal Infection. And
it looks like he's leaning pretty closely to the Goblin Barrage, and he is actually going to take that down.
Yeah, Barrage is quite a bit better, and Steve is early enough that he's not fully committed. He's got 2 green cards, 1 black card, and 1 red card. And also, if you're a green-based deck, you can splash pretty easily, so Goblin Barrage is not particularly committal one direction or another. Oh, there we go.
Oh, that is a nice pick towards the front.
Yeah, seeing that Llanowells as the last card in the pack has got to make Steve's heart skip a beat for a second. Because, you know, when you pick up a new pack, you go through, and at least the way I do it is I look and I'm like, if there's any card I'm willing to take, I feel satisfied. Steve's looking through that whole pack. Not a single card you're happy taking until you've hit Llanowells, last card in the pack.
It always feels like it got bailed out because you also know that you weren't planning on wheeling anything from that pack. So you're like, oh, wow, I got the one card that I could get out of this pack and I'm donezo.
Yeah, and the Llanowells is a good sign, too.
Let's see if he sees anything else. That Mammoth Spider towards the end. A Keldon Overseer.
I like just taking another Mammoth Spider here. Don't make a commitment to another color. And Mammoth Spider is just better than Keldon Overseer. There is a Soul Salvage. That card has some uses, especially if you intend to be a deck that wants to utilize Whisper. You're looking to pick up Windgrace Acolyte. But, yeah, I really like the direction Steve's going here.
I think Mammoth Spider is quite good in the format. It seems to block most relevant flyers. I mean, it doesn't block the ones that are bombs. At that point, you just need a removal spell for them anyway.
Mammoth Spider has impressed me. It's better than I initially thought, for sure.
Crozen Druid towards the front, that Feral Abomination as well, and he is taking the Crozen Druid.
Yeah, Crozen Druid and Feral Abomination are comparable. Neither is exciting, but they are both, since they're both close enough, you might as well take the green card. Because remember, Steve has one Whisper and one Goblin Barrage, and then the rest are green cards. And he's well aware of that. He wants to be in a position going into Pack 2 where if he opens Lyra Dawnbringer or in Bolus's Clutches, he can just take the off-color card and go green plus that color.
Partic Wanderer towards the front, that Voltaic Servant. This is kind of a weak pack. There's not that many choices for him. He is taking that Partic Wanderer.
No, and I don't think Steve is looking to play any cards in that pack. If he has to play a Partic Wanderer, it's not the end of the world, but the green decks can often do better. They can just play Primordial Worm. It's just a better version.
Yeah, it always feels like when you end up with a Partic Wanderer in these decks, you're like, all right, this is what we ended up with.
Well, Halar the Firefletcher wheeling is a really good sign. No other player took it. You're not necessarily the only red-green player because someone else could have taken a different card than gone into red-green, but at the very least right now, I'm feeling pretty good about taking that.
Yeah, especially because he didn't commit to it early in the draft, and so now this coming around, he's been able to take the cards in the individual colors that benefited him more.
And that's one of the downsides to taking Halar, say, first or second pick, versus taking it here, 9th pick.
Steve picks up a Howling Golem for that pack, and let's see what's awaiting here.
Every time I see Howling Golem, I think of the Black Keys song.
Which one?
Baby, I'm howling for you. I do like the card. Also the song.
Nothing too exciting in this pack. Harbor Armaments. Fire Elemental.
Yeah, and these are like marginal playable / sideboard cards, but this pack went really well for Steve. I really enjoy drafts where at the end of pack 1 I'm like basically monocolor.
Yeah, because it just gives you so much optionality going into pack 2.
Yeah, especially in a set that has a lot of really powerful cards. Ooh, I like Sparring Construct here, by the way.
More than Voltaic Servant?
Yeah, if you end up in black-green with Thallid Omnivores and like Whisper, Sparring Construct does some good work. I had two in my Pro Tour deck.
Is there any upside to considering Voltaic Servant for like just in case you open Traxos or something? Because they're so good together.
Yeah, Traxos is the best reason to play a Servant. And yeah, it's a good rare. You're not going to get past it very often, so I'm not super worried about that. But yeah, look at this. Steve has 2 Mammoth Spiders, Sapling Migration, Llanowar Elves, and then a couple marginals like Crows and Druid, plus Goblin Barrage and Halar in red and Whisper in black. So he's feeling pretty flexible here. He is leaning towards red-green. Getting that red-green legend late is good, but he really could go any direction depending on what he opens.
How are you feeling of your Steve right now?
This is solid. For taking all commons, basically, it's solid. Like, when you first pick Sapling Migration, you're not really feeling that great about things. But given the way that the packs went, I think Steve has about as good as he could hope for.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like it started off pretty soft, but then as the packs kept on going, he wheeled a lot of really important cards. And look, not all decks are going to have bomb rares, but this has a lot of really, really good commons.
Yeah, when you take a 6-pick Mammoth Spider, you feel pretty good. When you take a 2nd-pick Mammoth Spider, you don't feel that great.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that Steve is slightly more likely to end up red-green than anything else. But again, if he opens one of the best cards in the set in a different color, he has the option to play it.
How do you like Sparring Construct in general?
In general, it's not very good. You need to have a reason to play this card. When you have Thallid Omnivore, Vicious Offering, and Whisper sacrifice effects,
Yeah, that's nice.
it is pretty good. Or when you have a historic deck with a bunch of Relic Seekers and equipment, it's pretty good. But in a normal deck, it's not that good. They're calling me to report to the
Yes,
feature match area for
I
my
am
beta
hearing
draft.
It. I think probably people on the broadcast can hear it because it does pick up a little bit of the ambient noise. But I think you're not going to be showing up quite yet. Ooh, Karn's Temporal Sundering in here.
Yeah, that's a nice one. That is not the off-color bomb I was hoping for here. Steve has now an option between Gitu Chronicler, which currently has Goblin Barrage as a solid target, and Sapling Migration. He has Spore Swarm, which is just a fine card, nothing spectacular. It's actually worse than Migration in general.
Yeah, so once more we see kind of a not super exciting pack 1 pick 1, or pack 2 pick 1.
And Vicious Offering is the best card in the pack, but he would rather be red than black, so it's really going to be interesting to see whether Steve takes the better black card or the slightly less good red card that goes better with what he has already.
It looks he's leaning towards this Vicious Offering, and it is tempting. It is a very good removal spell. He is going to take it.
Yeah, I like that pick. I still think it's early enough in the draft that I would just take the better card, and Vicious Offering is great in the Black-Green Saplings deck.
All right, so hoping for some rares here maybe.
See, look, this is the opposite, where you open on
but
Growth from the Ashes, and you're pretty happy no matter what,
Ooh,
and then you see better cards. Yeah.
Hazard Bombardment, Cast Down.
As much as I like Bombardment, I'd have a hard time resisting just taking Cast Down. It's just so efficient.
It is very good. There you see you have Hazard Bombardment. I think another very card that's impressed me in this format.
Well, that's because you're good at rolling dice.
Look, it's still a solid a 3 for 1.
It definitely is.
But also, yes, I'm very lucky.
So Steve going with Cast Down means he's a little more firmly into black-green, and I think that's a good bet too, because black-green is the archetype you end up more often than red-green, so him kind of keeping that in mind is pretty good.
Ooh. So we see a Bloodstone Goblin to the front, Firefist Adept, some Yargle maybe?
I actually don't mind Yargle. The card, is a bit of a meme, but is also good at enabling legendary spells, and it hits for a lot of damage if you have some removal. If Steve takes one of these red cards, he's starting to get into the waffling territory where he's now split among 3 different colors. And
yeah, we've seen so much of this in all of our feature drafts today. We've had so many players that end up in the situation, right, where it's, well, I like this card better, and then eventually you get into the 6/6 mana territory.
Ooh, Kazarov Singular Pureblood.
How good do you think this is?
Kazarov is quite good. I initially thought the card was good.
It's expensive, though.
Then I thought it wasn't great.
Yeah.
But as the format has progressed, I actually like
You're
it a lot
back to
more.
it being good.
And I think given the card Steve already has, as good as Tatiova Benthic Druid is, Kazarov is on color and is a very good finisher. So there's those. There's also the 2 commons, Gitu Chronicler and Bailoff.
Wow, he is taking Tatiova. I mean, this is a really powerful card, but now we're getting into 4-color territory.
So I think what might happen here is Steve ends up ditching red and just ends up in black-green splashing
Splash blue.
Tatiova.
Llanowar Envoy can help facilitate that. It's not the best splash, but it can definitely get the job done.
Oh, I'd have a really hard time taking Llanowar Envoy over Thallid Omnivore. I think Thallid Omnivore is awesome. There's also a Llanowar Elves, too, which that does also some pretty good work with a lot of the cards Steve's trying to accelerate out.
Yeah, this does look like a hard pick, but he is going to go with a Llanowar Envoy.
Well, that means that Steve is taking the conservative line. He wants to make sure he can play his 3-color deck without too many issues. But like I said, I'd be really tempted to just take Thallid Omnivore here.
Yeah, I hear you.
That second Llanowar Envoy.
Now that's a
makes it
classic
even-
punished, right?
yeah.
Because you're like, I could have taken that in the last pick. Now I pick up my Llanowar Envoy. I mean, that might still be the pick here.
Yeah, nothing wrong with taking a second one. I like this Llanowar Envoy a lot more than I like the last one.
Yeah, he is going to go for that. Another Arbor Armaments.
I hope that at some point we can
Gaia's Protector.
we can cover one of Gerard Fabiano's draft and see Triumph of Gerard, because that would lead to some good talking points. That's about all the Triumph of Gerard is good for, unfortunately. And this particular pack has no cards Steve is interested in putting in his deck. though he might just take a guy as protector just in case.
Yeah, that card doesn't always make the main deck. It is, in fact, pretty mediocre. All right, a Mammoth Spider to the front.
Oh, yeah, let's get some more spiders in there. I mean, at some point you might want Feral Abomination over Mammoth Spider, but I honestly don't even think at number 3 is that point. I think I'd rather just have the 3rd Mammoth Spider.
Yeah, no, Mammoth Spider's solid. Steve Rubin is drafting the spider spawning deck over here.
Yeah, we're just doing it the hard way.
Yeah.
Spawning the spiders one by one.
5 man at a time. Oh, Slin Voda.
Yeah, the real Slin Voda is not quite the finisher that you want to have. At this point, Steve's deciding what card he'd want to play against the least. I guess I could see some really, really corner cases where Steve sides in Slin Voda, but it's really hard to imagine that.
He is going to take the Slin Voda. I'm not going to be playing it today.
Wow.
Ooh, Grow from the Ashes is big game.
Wheeling that is amazing for Steve. That's a card he considered taking, though I think ultimately made the correct pick by taking a removal spell over it. But wheeling Grow from the Ashes is just a gift dropped in your lap, and you don't get very many of those every draft.
Yeah, every once in a while when you do wheel that one card that it was so painful to let it go in the first time and it comes back to you, it's like,
you feel so good, yeah. Wow, and Thran Temporal Gateway. It's like a Grow from the Ashes.
Wow.
No, it's not really. It's just just not a great card.
Have you ever played it? Can you do anything with this?
Dear Lord, no.
No, didn't you play this in one of your Didn't you play this at the last GP?
No.
What did you play?
I played Urza's Tome.
No, it wasn't Urza's Tome.
Ooh, a nice little sparring construct.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Had Steve taken that Thelid Omnivore, that sparring construct could be getting there. Ooh, nice little last pick Navigator's Compass.
Get your fixing right here. All right, so if you're Steve, how are you feeling about this deck?
Pretty good. Wheeling that Grow was nice. I'm still sore about that Thelid Omnivore pick, but you have a good black-green base with a Tatiova and maybe a Goblin Barrage, though I'm not even that excited about splashing that. And going into pack 3, I'd be looking to just pick up more black and green cards, maybe another piece of fixing or two, and removal, pretty normal stuff. Splashing that Tatiova gives you a nice bit of power here.
I'm liking that Tatiova pick, actually. If you really are not committed to the red that you've drafted, the other card is really powerful. That always feels like one of those cards that when your opponent plays them, if you don't deal with it immediately, you're like, I'm going to lose soon.
You have a very hard time beating your opponent drawing 2 cards a turn and gaining a life every turn.
Yeah.
Nah, Steve has hope for those red cards. He's got that Bloodstone Goblin. He's got that Halar the Firefighter.
He got the Growth from the Ashes.
Yeah, even the Keldon Overseer. He's got those all firmly in his pile here. So I'm curious to see how this ends up. Maybe we'll just be 4 for 4 with watching someone draft and still having trouble predicting exactly what their cards are going to be or what colors they're going to be.
It's funny because it's only been you and I that have had those drafts.
Right. When
Paul
BDM and BDM covered a draft, it's like straight blue-white double Raf Capuchin or straight blue-black historic double Rona, and here it's like, well, he could be Jund, but there's also a Tatiova.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I'm being called.
Good luck. In the meantime, we're going to be welcoming Paul Rietzel into the booth as we head into this pack 3 for the top 8 draft. Hello, Paul. Welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no problem. I offered to take Luis's seat in the beta draft, but he selfishly declined.
So far we've been watching Steve Rubin draft, and he's ended up in, he's waffled between his colors. He has a lot of really solid black removal spells. Looks like he's picked up a Tatiova that he's looking to splash. He took red at some point, and there's an Icy Manipulator in this pack. So it's been kind of all over the place.
Okay, well, good news about Icy Manipulators. That's one of those cards on easy mode, since it's both the best card in the pack and is definitely in his colors. I know that for sure coming in cold.
It's also foil. It looks nice.
Yeah. Might we see an Icy Manipulator coming up in the next draft?
Yeah. 2 top 8s, 1 Icy Manipulator. Yeah, from talking to the players, it seems Icy Manipulator just as good back then, and it's still extremely good today.
Yes. Now, I don't know the price on a foil Dominaria Icy Manipulator, but I do not believe it's as valuable as a beta Icy Manipulator.
Does not look as cool either.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much. All right, so a Croson Druid, a Cloud Reader Sphinx towards the front.
Okay, so in the first, I'm trying to guess what he's drafting based upon what he put to the front last time, and that's very difficult.
He's
so.
actually kind of in a lot of colors. Like
Okay.
it's been definitely one of those drafts where there's been a bit of waffling, and he has a lot of really good green cards that he has a Growth from the Ashes to splash with.
Okay.
But, you know, the Mending of Dominaria is going to help him in some of the splash.
Yeah,
for sure.
sounds like a great Mending of Dominaria deck from what little I know.
Hemant Patel.
I like the Mending of Dominaria quite a bit. We've been talking about it a lot. I've heard again, it talked. Some people have described it as the world's worst soul salvage, and other people think it's a complete and utter bomb.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the card, and certainly if you know, given what you told me about Steve's deck, it seems like exactly the kind of thing that he needs in the mid game.
Yeah, so this Rona's getting pulled towards the front, and Steve was in Sultai colors.
Okay.
So the Rona could definitely be a good pickup for him.
And we saw in his second draft deck in Pod 1 how effective those two Ronas were for him.
Yeah, the Rona into Exile Rona,
Mhm.
Replay Rona, Bardic Wanderer.
Mm-hmm.
It is really good value. It seems like Rona does eat a removal spell pretty much as soon as it comes into play.
Sure.
And it is going to be the pick for him.
Wow, still plenty of good cards in the Sultai colors
Yeah,
here.
he actually has 3 Mammoth Spiders right now. So base green, and like I said, the other colors are a little undecided still.
Mm-hmm.
Baloth Gorger being pulled towards the front.
Yeah, Baloth Gorger I've really liked in green-blue kind of strategies as you know, that tends to be sort of a soft spot on the curve for you. Early on in the game, it can kind of pressure them. It holds off their 3-power creatures, and then late in the game, when you're flooded, it's a really nice flood mitigator, just, you know, bumping up to 7/7.
Yeah, and that is going to be his pickup here. It is going to be really interesting to see where Steve ends up with, because he's picked up a lot of good cards in so many colors at this point, though he does have some splash to work around.
Yeah, and you notice this booster, he went by Elfheim Druid, then went by the rest of the booster very quickly.
Yes.
He's very, I think, happy to get an Elfheim Druid.
Yeah, it looks like he got bailed out with that one a little bit. There
Yep.
was the Llanowar Envoy in that pack too, but he actually picked up 2 of those in pack 1.
Yeah, turn 2 Elfheim Druid, turn 3 Grow from the Ashes on the play is one of my favorite sequences, setting up some really obscene turn 4s.
How much do you like a green in this draft format?
I actually like it quite a bit. Yeah, I think the green pairs pretty well with all the other colors, and the cards are pretty flexible. So again, Baloth Gorger serving completely different functions in a green-blue deck versus, say, like a green-red deck. Where Gorger in a green-blue deck is going to play defense, and late game, where in a green-red deck you're using it as just meat to just start the beatdown. So
Sure.
Grow from the Ashes again. Here it's going to be fixing his mana and accelerating him. In green-red decks, it's going to be doing that, also triggering some of your kicker matters type of spells.
See if there's anything good for him in this pack, and it's looking a little sparse. Adventurous Impulse being pulled to the front. There's a couple of those red cards.
Little dry, yeah. Things are starting to slow down. There might be a Soul Salvage if he is dipping into black, could be interesting. Adventurous Impulse potentially a little bit fixing, or maybe he doesn't want to play against these red cards. He does like the Soul Salvage.
Yeah, he is going to end up with that.
I like a Soul Salvage in some of my Sultai decks when I'm just touching a little bit of black. Don't necessarily always need to start it, especially when you already have something like the Mending of Dominaria, but it's nice to have access to it in post-sideboard games against other grindy decks.
Yeah, and he's going to take that Saproling Migration, so he is very heavily base green at this point. And luckily those 2 Grow from the Ashes are going to help him splash, because he does have a lot of colors at the moment.
Oh, wow. 2 Grow from the Ashes. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that Elfheim Druid was a really nice pickup for
Yeah.
him in this pack.
Hemant Patel. Please proceed to the blue.
Here's the Sky
Yeah.
potentially for the sideboard.
You know, I've actually been main decking that card more and
Really?
more lately. Yeah, I just find, especially in an eight-man draft like this, where you're the heavy green drafter, it's just so likely that other people are going to be playing white and blue and black, and they're going to have some kind of flyer. And there's so many Zahids and Kazarovs out there and Lyras that you just have to kill right away, or you lose on the spot.
And it does feel like a lot of the really good bombs in this format, even like on Sarah's Wings, give
Sure.
the creature flying. So
Sure.
yeah, I can see that Pierce the Sky being quite good. He does have those 3 Mammoth Spiders.
Right.
Not sure how many he is playing, but he seems to be covered with flyers this draft.
Wow. 4 playables left with
Yeah.
4 cards in the pack.
This is not too shabby. That
Yeah.
gets the Growth to the front. And that is what he's opting for.
Yeah, green blue, not the best home for Gift of Growth, but given the fact that he may be a little bit light on playable, certainly not ever an embarrassing inclusion in your deck, and certainly, again, we mentioned Elfheim Druid can cast Gift of Growth out of nowhere.
Corrosive Ooze is the third to last pick. How do you feel about Corrosive Ooze?
Yeah, I mean, if I put it in my deck, I'm not embarrassed about it, but I'm hoping to have it in my sideboard against something like Black Blade Reforged or Forebear's Blade.
I like that the baseline is like, what is the level of embarrassment? Like, from 0 to embarrassed, how much do you not want to have this card in your
Right.
deck? Paul, thank you so much for joining us impromptu. I know that Luis had to jump over to the beta draft, but that was Steve Rubin's draft here for the top 8 at Grand Prix Las Vegas. Curious to see where his deck ends up. He's definitely very heavily base green and not entirely sure. He picked up a lot of good cards and a lot of colors. He might be playing red. He has the Rona. It might end up in some Black Splash, so we'll see where that ends up. But are you excited to cover the beta draft?
Yeah, I'm super excited. Both of these tournaments excite me. I love a good sealed deck Grand Prix, and obviously the prestige of being a Grand Prix Las Vegas champion is huge. We have a stacked top 8 there. We also have the beta draft, a stacked top 8
Yes.
there, and we're going to get to see some actual beta boosters open with, I think, over an 80% chance of seeing power. So going to be an exciting next couple hours for sure.
Don't go anywhere because we have a lot of top 8, actually 2 top 8s coming your way, but they will come after these messages.